So most of you know me. I am the Deputy Fire Chief of Training, Warren T. Carter. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you all to the Training Academy, and I just want to be able to express our support in this endeavor. This is our second seminar for empowering women to lead. Our audience appears to be growing, and we want to continue this on. I think that this is an important thing that's taking place right now. I have to actually give an applaud to the fire chief for supporting this, and again for Ms. McDaniels and Amy Morrow in their effort in terms of bringing light to the industry and where women have a place in this industry that you all serve in. So again, I want to welcome you. Thank you for coming. And at this time, I'd like to bring up the Chief Gregory Dean for opening remarks.
Good afternoon. I apologize for being a few minutes late. Actually, I wanted to spend some more time with you guys, so maybe we can afterwards, just to kind of learn some more. So thank you to Amy Morrill and to Kim McDaniel for your continued hard work and success in preparing our future leaders. Welcome to Chief Trisha Wolford, the first female chief of the Arundel County Fire Department. And Chief Tiffanye Wesley, who is the first African-American female battalion chief in Arlington County. So we look forward to learning more about you and also hopefully take your wisdom away with us. Firefighting became more organized from the 18th century onwards, led with the rise of insurance companies and then with the rise of government fire services in the 19th century. In 1818, Molly Williams was recorded as being the first female firefighter in the United States. Firefighting has historically been a predominantly male profession throughout the world. However, since the 1970s, women have made inroads in both professional and volunteer fire departments in multiple countries. In modern times, women have served in a variety of fire service roles, including fire chiefs. Nonetheless, they compress less than 20% of firefighters, even in countries where they're best represented. The Smithsonian Institute said it best. The American Women's History Initiative will amplify women's voices to honor the past, inform the present, and inspire the future. Chiefs Wolford and Wesley, the stories you tell will deepen our understanding of women's contribution to America, the fire service, and the world. Showing how far women have advanced, how we as a country value equality and contributions of all our citizens. So today, we welcome you. We look forward to learning from you, and thank you very much for being a part of this program.
I think everybody knows me by now. Well, good afternoon. This powerful and beautiful, dynamic woman that I'm about to introduce, I had the honor and pleasure of meeting a few years ago during our training that we participated in. And people, I have to tell you, she is absolutely as energetic and full of life and possibilities as she is depicted on social media. She shared with me just a fraction of her journey, which included barriers and roadblocks. But after persevering and breaking down those barriers came triumph for Tiffanye. To me personally, she is a wonderful example of the motto, her quote, that she lives by, no matter what, and if they say I can't, I will prove that I can. And for this, I support and salute her. Now for the bio. This young woman is none other than Tiffanye S. Wesley, and she is celebrated as a leader and a trailblazer. The internationally certified John Maxwell speaker, trainer, and coach is also a fire and EMS battalion chief with the Arlington County Fire Department in Arlington, Virginia. The first African-American female to be promoted to this level of leadership in the department's 78-year history. She's a 25-year veteran of the Arlington County Fire Department. Tiffanye has served in numerous positions. The most notable positions include nationally certified bomb technician and bomb commander, station commander for the largest and busiest firehouse in Arlington, and currently fire and EMS battalion chief. As a speaker and trainer, Tiffanye has been profiled in an internet feature entitled Breaking the Glass Ceiling, shared first on the campus of Georgetown University. The internet feature ultimately led to her guest appearance on the Harry Connick Jr. show as a leading lady. Known for putting out fires also, she also has ignited audiences as a presenter at some of the most prestigious fire service conferences. She has presented at the largest fire department instructors conference, which is FDIC, the Carl Holmes Executive Department Institute, EDI, the iWomen Conference, which she will be participating again in this year, the Virginia Equity and Diversity Conference, and the Women in Public Service Conference, to name a few. Tiffanye has also served as a keynote speaker for Arlington County Women History Month, the Rotary Club International Month, and for the United States Defense Security Service African American Black History Month. In 2017, Tiffanye released her published book anthology, No More Chains. Her story is also profiled in a 2017 documentary by the same title. This Woman on Fire is an inspiration to men and women all over the country because of her transparency and story of determination and commitment in a career no one ever thought she would survive in. Her no matter what, and if they say I can't, I will prove that I can attitude has allowed her to climb the ladder of success even when the odds were stacked against her. Tiffanye uses prayer, poetry, and daily positive affirmations to keep focused and renewed. She also commits to a healthy lifestyle of eating and exercise. She is married to her best friend, Eric Wesley, who is here in the audience with her, supporting her. He is also a lieutenant in Arlington County. They have 4 beautiful children and 1 grandchild. So without further ado, please let us welcome Battalion Fire EMS Chief Tiffanye S. Wesley.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for having me. So in going with the theme, this is my open letter to the next generation. Good morning, little sis. I want to welcome you into the fire service. I want to welcome you to our family. Yes, we are family. And now, therefore, you are my little sister. See, I affectionately started calling each of my sisters as I met my little sister because I wanted them to know and I wanted them to feel that I was committed to the relationship, whether we met on social media or in real life. I wanted them to know that I was there to talk to encourage, to inspire, and to offer advice. See, little sis, I've been working really hard preparing for your arrival. I didn't know you by name, but I knew you were coming. And I understood I had some cleaning to do before you arrived. I wanted you to come into a sterile environment, one free from all of the isms, one where you would feel welcomed and, most importantly, valued. At first, I used to get so tired It seemed like the more I cleaned, the more dirt would immediately reappear. But I kept working. There were sleepless nights, and there were nights where I filled my pillow with tears. But then the morning would come. Oh, in that morning, I knew once I saw the daylight that it allowed me another opportunity to get back up and to start cleaning again. You know, it's just like the Kirk Franklin song, I Smile. Well, never mind. You're probably saying, who is Kirk Franklin anyway? Anyway, back to cleaning. You are never going to believe this. The room that you're sleeping in, it had a glass ceiling. It was so stained and chipped from the sisters who came before me. It looked as if literally they were throwing pebbles at it, pebbles trying to break it. Well, all I knew is I wanted an open air. I wanted an environment where you can just look up and see limitless possibilities. So I first started throwing pebbles at it myself. And then in 2007, I cracked it. Oh, you can't imagine the joy I felt that I was the first person to crack that ceiling. As the years passed, I got stronger. And I got wiser. And one day I got so mad and threw a book at that ceiling, and it cracked a little bit more. See, I had to keep working because it was also a table. It was a table in the dining room that I could see, but I just couldn't get to it. I could see that it was dusty and it needed to be dusted. I could see it was a menu with my name on it. But I just couldn't figure out how to get through the door. Woo, sis, it was a process. But I knew deep down inside, if I just kept cleaning, if I just didn't give up, eventually it would be clean enough for you to come. One of the books I read had instructions in it. It said, be not weary in well doing. It said, trust in your heart and lean not into your own understanding. It said, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And last but not least, it said, in the end, you will win. You see, I knew from all the studying that grapes must be crushed to make wine. Diamonds form under pressure. Olives are pressed from oil. And seeds grow in darkness. So whenever I felt crushed, under pressure, and in darkness, I knew I was in a powerful place of transformation. Sis, let me tell you, I got up and I cleaned like never before. I had so much energy. I would read and clean and read. I read books on leadership, and I read books on serving others. Books like Becoming Michelle Obama. Books like Dare by Becky Blaylock. And my favorite, She Wins, You Win. Little sis, don't cry when you read this. I did this all for you. I cried all those years so none of you would have to. The hardwood floor sparkling with gleam, it's not just my work. I had other sisters to join my team. The open foyer that you see, it took years to build. Once my brother saw my sisters united, it all but sealed the deal. The stains of blood, sweat, and tears that were once so hard to remove have since been sanded, repaired, buffed, and are now smooth. The dining room table, where I once was on the menu as a light fare, is now open and inviting, and your place setting is already there. Last but not least, the glass ceiling that I cracked years ago has been completely removed. I have the badge and honor and bugles to show. Everything you need is already there. My sisters Trish, Tiffanye, Kalila, Tia, Queen Keisha, and so many more have ensured you won't have a care. All that we ask is that you rinse and repeat and set the table for the next. Build up your little sisters. Stay united and always be your best. Thank you.
Tiffanye. Thank you. Thank you, sister. I should have gone first. Oh. I got you. Good afternoon, Chief Dean, executive staff, our distinguished guests, and most importantly, our select group of women who have taken the first step towards leadership. I applaud you, I salute you, and I support you. When we talk about retention, there is no joy in recognizing any first to do something or the only to do something if there is no one behind you to pass the baton to continue the hard work. It's going to be difficult. You're going to have challenges. But I encourage you to be determined and disciplined. Use everyone that came before you to show proof that it can be done. I am Battalion Fire Chief Paramedic Queen Anune. Today, I stand before you in celebration of National Women's Month. Ladies, we've come a long way. We have come a long way from our positions within the household where we served in supportive roles for our families and loved ones. We have new positions in leadership roles such as CEOs of top businesses, directors of government agencies, chief of police, and oh yeah, the chief of the fire department. We have shattered the glass ceiling. I want you to pay attention to all the hard work that went into this individual that I'm going to bring forward. And I want you to pay particular attention to the many hats that she have worn in the past. On December 21st, 2018, Anne Arundel County Executive Stuart Pittman announced Trisha L. Wolford as his appointment to the position of Fire Chief. Chief Wolford was officially sworn in as Chief of Department on the morning of January 28, 2019. Chief Wolford is the 12th chief in the 54-year history of the Anne Arundel County Fire Department. This appointment is a homecoming for Chief Wolford, as she started her fire service career in Maryland with the Anne Arundel County Fire Department in January 2006. Chief Wolford operated as a firefighter paramedic until her assignment to the Fire Marshal's Office in 2011. She spent 7 months training at the Anne Arundel County Police Academy and was sworn in as a law enforcement officer in May 2012. She was then assigned to the Fire and Explosives and Investigation Unit, where she promoted to lieutenant in 2014. With her law enforcement and paramedic background, Chief Wolford was a part of the Anne Arundel County Tactical Medic Program for 4 years, providing medical attention to the Anne Arundel County Police Quick Response Team. In December 2015, she accepted the position of Deputy Fire Chief and Fire Marshal with the Bozeman Fire Department in Bozeman, Montana. The Bozeman Fire Department is comprised of 3 fire stations and 51 firefighters. She was responsible for administrative services, public education, code enforcement, fire investigation, fire inspections, company inspections, and city fire marshal duties. In 2017, Chief Wolford joined the Spokane Fire Department as the Assistant Fire Chief, overseeing full operations of the department. She directly supervised deputy chiefs managing operations, training, support services, human resources, and the Fire Marshal Division. Chief Wolford received her bachelor's degree from Shepherd University in Shepherdstown, West Virginia in 2000. She is completing her master's degree in management and leadership from Western Governors University. She received her paramedic certification from Arundel Community College in 2009 and continues to be a national registered paramedic. She is a graduate of the Executive Fire Officer Program at the National Fire Academy. She is a recent graduate of the IFC's Fire Service Executive Development Institute and holds a CFO, a CFM designation from the Center for Public Safety Excellence. Chief Wolford is a member of the International Association of Fire Chiefs Human Relations Committee, chair of the Professional Development Committee, and director at large of the EFO Section Committee. Woo, you've been busy. Without further ado, please allow me in recognizing this hardworking warrior and welcoming Fire Trisha Wolford.
I got to get the whole microphone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm a little bit of a freelancer. I like to move around. As soon as right? Can you tell? You just said that. You're spot on with my career. So thank you again, Chief. Thank you for having us. I almost got it, I think. Put the cord in my pocket. I got some clear direction. I can follow direction very well. Tuck this in here. Sorry for the delay. We're sharing a mic. All right, there we go. So thank you again. Look around this room. Like, turn around in your chair if you're sitting in the front. It is absolutely beautiful. I mean, I'm like giddy about it. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I greatly appreciate being here. We talk about the glass ceiling. Let me tell you, the air is fresh up here. It is lovely. It is clear. You got to breathe some dirty air to get here. But when you do, the view is glorious. A little bit about myself, because I think it's important to understand when we talk about strong women, how we got here, and what we're going to do to stay here. That's the other part of the conversation. How do we stay here? How do we continue to grow? When I left Anne Arundel County after 10 years of being there, I left as a lieutenant. I was a lieutenant in the field, and I was a lieutenant in the fire marshal's office. For those of you in the fire marshal's office, it is where it's at. That code enforcement, if you talk about the political entities that go on, Chief knows, boy, there's all kinds of stuff turning out of the fire marshal's office. You learn great stuff there. So that's my plug, because when you're not in operations, people look at you like, you're not in operations. Don't let them look at you like that, because it's a good spot to be in. So when I left as a lieutenant from Anne Arundel County, and I left because I thought, I control my career. A system doesn't control who I am. I had a supportive husband. He said, you want to see if you're competitive out there? And I'd been working on the side all along. I'm doing my job. I'm doing great things in the department, just trying to stay focused and make sure I'm where I need to be. And then I recognized, this isn't going to get me where I want to be. I need to invest time in myself. I need to invest time in the process, and I need to see what it takes to climb. I knew I wanted to do more, and that was always the urge. So as a lieutenant, we decided I'm going to put my resume out there. We're going to see what happens. I put out 5 resumes. I got 3 interviews. And I was like, like now I got to perform, right? Like you can't just put it out there and not perform. I went to Wisconsin. I went to Colorado. I went to Montana. And Montana was a great fit because I had to acknowledge who I was. I was a 10-year lieutenant. I'm not gonna go run a department right now, but I thought I wanna come back. I knew I wanted to come back to Arundel. I knew this was my home and I knew I could do good things here. So I needed to go small, understand your limits. I'm more of a bullet point, so I've got just kind of some tips that I lived off of that I've collected from other women. So know your limits. Really important to know what you're capable of. It's important to know what you're just capable of, maybe, that fake it till you make it thing. Like you can stand there with the front, you know a lot about it, but you need to learn more about it. And then this is off limits right now. I don't know anything about that, and I'm not gonna ruin my reputation on that. And I was competitive, I was honest in all my interviews. This is where I am, I wanna go small. I wanted to get my hands on things. I knew if I were to get into a big department, I'm gonna have an aide, I'm gonna have an XO, I'm gonna have deputies to do all this stuff for me. I needed to write policy. I needed to say that I understood what it was like to build this. I needed to figure out how to order Class A uniforms. All of those things that seem dumb, but make you relatable. So that's the other thing. You gotta be able to relate to whoever you're managing. Whoever you're trying to lead, you gotta be able to say to them, I remember what it was like to be a medic, to never sleep for 24 hours, to make your bed with those clean sheets and then never touch that bed, to just pack them back up again. You don't have to do all of this for 10, 20, and 30 years and then be a fire chief when you're 85. You can experience things and grow from other people. So here I end up in Bozeman, Montana, with, thank God, a supportive husband, because my husband was born and raised in PG County, and we went to Bozeman, Montana, and let me tell you, nobody looked like you and nobody looked like me. And he was like this, and the poor man is probably still in culture shock. But I learned a lot. That's why I get out. That's why I wanted to try. I'm a fire service person trying to learn about my fire department. The fire service, it's big, it's vastly different. The building construction was different there. The people were different. The mindset was different. I was the first female ever in that department in 133 years. They didn't know what to do with me in a sense, So supportive from the department. The city was very confused by me, which was really interesting. I worked with 50 men there. Fantastic. Not a blip on the radar for them. City administration was kind of like, there's a female in the fire department. I'm like, well, I'm gonna wear the same pants today. I'm gonna put on the same shoes. We're gonna do the same work and serve our citizens. But 133 years of change, my own culture shock, their own culture shock. That's when I first realized, wait a minute, there's a ripple effect that goes both ways. I can have an impact. I can do something, even if it's just by being present. So that's the other one. Be present. Get out. This is networking. Every single one of you, I'm like, we're gonna plan cocktail parties, we're gonna go to conferences together. It just doesn't matter. There were a couple of us speaking earlier. If you're a firefighter, if you're just coming into the department, you have the same struggles I have. We just have them in different areas, or we have them at different degrees, but we're all dealing with the same thing. So I learned a lot in Bozeman. Really got out there, I started networking. That's your other one, network, network, network. Tiffany and I met at FRI 2 years ago, and we were at one of the hotels getting ready to go to an event, and she is dressed cute as all get out, all the time, right? And she's standing at a little cocktail table. You were probably getting her drinks, which was very nice, and standing at a little cocktail table, and I went, she looks like somebody I need to know. Hello, nice to meet you. We walk right up to each other. And then you got to exchange the information. You got to do a little bit of business, right? Exchange the information. And then it is on you, whoever engaged, to say, I'm going to make you my friend. I mean, there are people I've walked up to and I said, blah, blah, blah. We start talking. I said, just so you know, you're my new mentor. You okay with that? Just get it out there. Tell them what you need from them. And that's what I've done. Like, hey, so we're going to talk about this and we're going to talk about that. And then, I'm going to call you because, I've never been a battalion chief, like cat's out of the bag on that one. So I've never been a captain either. That's another one too. So I'm going to find a battalion chief that I love and that I trust to say, hey, they're telling me this. Is that kind of crazy talk? Because it feels like crazy talk. And just having that relationship. But we established we're going to be friends. I wasn't in the region at the time. I knew I wanted to come back. And it didn't matter. I needed a confidant. You know, that's how it works. So that networking element is key. Network with people that you don't think are your kind of people, because the value is immense there. They force you to think outside the box. They force you to challenge your own mindset, which I absolutely love. So then my husband says, hey, we're still in Bozeman. It's 2 years later. Are we going anywhere? I got very lucky and got recruited by a fantastic chief out of Spokane, Washington. And he was pretty relentless. In the fire marshal's office, you learn thank you, 500 different ways to say no in the nicest version, because that's what we say all day is no. How nice can you say no? And I told this poor chief no for 6 months in every nice and not nice version. And we became friends, and he started mentoring me, because I said to him, well, I'm not going to work for you, but you're going to mentor me. And he was like, you're going to come work for me. So we continue that relationship, and that's probably the other thing. Don't forget about the men who continue to kind of flatten the road ahead of you. There's so many men that we don't know that are flattening that road for whatever reasons. They don't want to take the heat on it. They don't want to talk about it, but they're out there. The men that have fostered my career are just as powerful as the women. So that would just be another one of my key points. Don't forget about the men. And he continued to foster me, and then finally he said, okay, please, you have to come work for me. And I was a little nervous because he said, I want you to run the department. I was like, oh, really? That's exciting. And I'm thinking he's not going to be honest with me, right? That's not going to be legit. I'm going to get there and he's going to go, well, I see you have some fire marshal's experience. We'll let you work in that office. So I really took time to understand. Taking time, that's kind of one of my other things. Take the time to do the research for your comfort. Your comfort is absolutely one of the most powerful things, because our instincts are so good. Trust those instincts. Men, women, whatever it is, but there is some emotional gut feeling that I try to tell my husband about, and he's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, I know. But I think we know. That's one of those things about being a woman that brings something different to the job. And sometimes you just have to trust that, but you also have to have the information to articulate that you can back that up. You never want to walk into a meeting and say, it's because my gut told me. I'm not going to any meeting like that. But there is something. There is something that is driving you for more information. So get more information so you feel that level of comfort. I head out to Spokane, Washington. That's about 2,300 miles from here. My husband reminded me, 2,300 miles. I'm like, yes. We get there. What a very different atmosphere to work in. They had never had anybody above a captain that was a female in leadership. And that is a salty, gritty bunch out there. So, a challenge, yep. That was a big cultural challenge. But it was really good for me. It was good to see. I had had such a phenomenal career so far that I was beginning to think, we're not there anymore. We've advanced as females in the profession. And I thought, oh, nope, I just got lucky. Here I am in Spokane, and I learned so many wonderful things, but I learned so much about myself, because I was challenged for many reasons because I was a female. And I thought, well, that is just bizarre, right? Why is that? And I saved some really good emails that I got in my career because some of that stuff you just can't believe. And then I thought, well, let's just approach this how we approach everything. We're going to be logical. We're going to investigate things. We're going to look into it. Let's take the emotion out of it. And that's how I work. There's emotional-based decisions, and then there's work-based decisions that come from that professional education point. And those are the decisions I like to make. I don't want to lose the emotional, being able to empathize, being able to be who I am as a human, but there is a time and a place for it. And when you get to the point that you understand, you can judge that for yourself. You can judge when I can run up to another officer and give them a hug, or when I have to professionally stand and shake their hand. But I know afterwards, we're going to give each other a hug and we're going to talk about our kids or life. But you have to be able to understand that there's a time and a place for all of it. And it's not because somebody's telling you not to be that. It's because it's what you're doing. It's your profession. You're working. You are still allowed to be a person. So that leads me to being able to balance who you are. Learning who you are is almost more important than learning who your staff is, learning who works for you or with you. Take the time to understand who you are. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations so you learn to grow. It's immensely, immensely important, because when you get to the spot where I am now, I need to be comfortable in my skin, because when I say no for something big or I say yes from something big, it's going to be Trisha's or Chief Wolford's decision. It's not going to be the department's decision. I'm not going to be able to pass it off on somebody else. So I need to come from a place of peace and a place of comfort. And it's really hard to get there some days, but it's part of what we do. So now I get to come back to the East Coast. I was in Spokane for a year. We were in an election cycle in Anne Arundel County, and I thought for sure I was going to have to wait another election cycle, but I was very blessed and got the opportunity to come back now. So you can imagine the chatter that is happening. You know, I've left Anne Arundel County. I'm friends with everybody. We're on Facebook. You know, we're on Snapchat. We're all connected. And I left as a lieutenant, right? I never made captain. I never made battalion chief. In our system, we have a division chief. I never made division chief. Nobody saw the growth on the side. Nobody saw what I did for 3 years. And then here I come back as their fire chief. And the looks, it was like, huh, right? There's just this, And you know, and this is just life. You can't plan this, right? This is just the honesty of, this is grit, this is hard work, this is being prepared. Be prepared for everything. That's the other one. When you know there's a promotion coming up, you should have been prepared 2 promotional cycles before. I took Fire Officer 4 when I was a firefighter because my husband's like, that's probably a good idea. And I was like, really? No, I don't need that until battalion chief. He said, just take it, just take it. Every promotional process, every interview I went to, I got extra points and higher scores. I went into EFO as a lieutenant. Literally, I made lieutenant on May 14th, and I was like standing at the fire chief's door on May 16th. Can you sign this, please? I'd like to go to EFO, you know? I used my own leave. I did whatever I wanted to do. I wasn't gonna wait for the department to say, we're gonna give you leave, and we're gonna pay you overtime, and you can go in this class. That's great if it works out. I control me. These are my choices. This is what I want to do. I was willing to make the sacrifices. And with that, I had a very supportive spouse that would make the sacrifices. I come back here. It's January 28th. I get to sign the old ledger, sits in the office. Pretty phenomenal. There's, you know, the first fire chief on there who, you know, I had known of. And then, of course, you know, there's all this chatter that comes with it, which is remarkable. So this is the other thing, the balance. The balance of being the first, right? Being the first female too, being respectful and supportive of that, and at the same time being willing to just want to do the job. You know, how do you balance that? Because you have such pride. You know, I mean, there's such pride in where you come from. There's such pride in the fact that when I was in Spokane, they didn't have a women's cut uniform shirt, and I was like, whoa. We're gonna get women's cut shirt. And for me and 11 other females, it made a world of difference. Small step. Big step for them. You know, for here we've had some of those things. But being able to really embrace where changes are, when we break the glass ceiling, you know, when we get to a point that it's okay to say, what glass ceiling? That was 20 years ago. We are here, you know. We don't have to have that conversation. So balancing who you are in your position, who you are as a person, and where it's okay to say, okay, I am the first of this, and I'm really proud, but you know what? I'm damn good at what I do. You know, I'm trained, I'm qualified, I'm educated. That's what I want to talk about. I've had a couple of interviews when I was out west, lots of media stuff, Bozeman and Spokane, and never once did anyone in the media ask me about my resume. They asked me about my shoe collection. They asked me about, I know I do love high heels. I don't have them on right now, but you know, they asked me about what my husband does. And finally, after 3 years, I thought, well, I wonder when they're gonna ask about my resume. So I started generating the conversation. Me, my responsibility. I wanna talk about who I am and how I'm qualified. This would be my other word of advice. You are in control of you, which means you are in control of the conversations about you for the most part. They want to talk about shoes? That's great. I'm like, well, let me tell you about my organizational skills and how that relates to the department. Force the conversation in your favor. Do things the way you want to do it. That doesn't mean be rude or be impolite and bowl over a conversation, but that is one of our best skills, is we can, kind of massage something this way or scoot it along this way. These are where those skills really start to pay off. So those are some of the important things. I had a little checklist here because I have this great network of female chiefs and officers, and it's literally just expanded to this now, which is fantastic. I've met so many of you already. And these are things that we continue to talk about. One of the most important things, there are things that happen in our career that can really set us in a physical and mental manner of how we participate in our departments and how we learn to grow. The way it was brought to me is they said, you're in the fire department. Are you going to make it sport or are you going to make it war? And as a fire chief, I lead my everyday as a sport. I love sports. I love to compete. I love to be athletic. I love to be engaged. I love to be prepared, well-trained. So I treat it as a sport. When you start treating who you are, your position in work like war, you're coming from that negative place. You're wanting to challenge. Everything is because you're a woman. That's why you're using it against me. It's because you don't like how I do this. It's because you think I got here under false pretenses. When we start to get all of those negative thoughts, then we've left the pleasure of the job. The job is amazing. I mean, this profession is incredible, and we continue to make it better. But my advice, stay in sport. Operate from the sport mentality, not the war. There's nothing that can be gained from us if we turn into war, because we end up turning on each other. And we're here for shoulders to cry on, hands to hold, whatever support we need. So that's really a good one. When you're wrong, admit you're wrong. That's a tough one some days. Just say it. I was wrong. Somebody help me. Those have been some of the best conversations that I've learned from people. Making sure I hit everything I want here. Anticipate. That was a good one that was brought to me very early, actually, when I was in Bozeman. I was working for a very young fire chief. He was phenomenal, and my ability to anticipate was a little slow. I felt what it was a little slow to anticipate his needs. And then I realized, I'm his assistant chief, I should be anticipating his needs, but I need to be anticipating the needs of the community, the needs of my members in the station, the needs of, whoever it is, my sister next to me when they're having a bad day. The ability to anticipate and to really be able to understand what is going on in other people's lives. I stand up here right now talking to you all, having a great day. Nobody knows what my morning was like. Nobody knows if I spilled coffee on myself, I ran out of gas, I was frantic getting here. Really understanding that there is such a bigger part to who we are and how we support. And we really have to take all of that into consideration. I think I just have one more. Dressing for success. And in this case, because I have talked about my resume, I am going to talk about clothes. Always, always, always present yourself well. I've been asked to do speaking engagements. I've been asked to come talk to classes simply because I went to a class at a training facility and I wasn't wearing khakis and a polo. I wore a suit. For me, it was important that I am here. I'm here to learn. I'm here to engage. This is how I want people to view me. It seems like such a little thing, but your ability to be put together, to be early, to stand with that just a little bit of shoulder back. And it's not because you're arrogant or because you think you're too good. It's because you're important. That's it. We are important. You are important doing what you are. It's okay to be important. So the way you present yourself really matters. Take the extra time to just say to yourself, yep, I don't have any lint. I do have a piece of lint, whatever it is, to just invest in yourself. And that's in more ways than once. That's that calming inner peace from inside. And then it's the ability to say, this is a big deal. And if everything around you isn't a big deal, I'm still a big deal. That's important. You are a big deal. So these are kind of lessons that I have learned along the way that have really, really helped me. All of this comes from this, we're trying to work, we're trying to climb, we're trying to support. You want to get to wherever that sweet spot is for you. I want to do it together. I want us to all be doing it together, staying very humble, but very assertive, very positive in who we are. And my plan is, I'm lucky. I got here. you know, it's that ability of luck and preparation when they come together. I continue to just try and pull people up. So my last thing is find your mentors, find more than one, find people very different than you. And as soon as you find your mentors and you start working with them, you immediately turn around and you find who you're mentoring, right? We wait too long for that ripple effect to happen. So whoever is just 1 or 2 years on the job, there's somebody that is just coming in that absolutely needs you. I couldn't have said it better than, you know, my little sis. Like, where are you? I've been waiting for you. I have been waiting for all of you. You know, that's what we're doing here. So be a good mentor, be a good human being, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, see, that's how it works.
Oh, you want to stay? Yeah, we can stay. We can stay. Yeah, so they can see.
So I'm constantly sending information out to the ladies with respect to training opportunities and conferences. Are there any conferences that you would recommend, or seminars, or training opportunities? Of course, I know about the iWomen, and I think there's the LDI. Yes. I think you talked about that earlier, Tiffany, but if there are others, if you could sort of educate us on that.
I would definitely recommend the Call Holmes Executive Development Institute. I went through that program 20 years ago, and now I'm back teaching at that program. So I would definitely advise the Executive Development Institute. It's comparable to the EFO program. That's one. LDI, which is the Northern Virginia class, but that's where I met Queen and Keisha. So definitely that and lieutenants and officers can go, and now they started the command leadership portion. That's where I went through the command leadership portion. That program is also phenomenal because as a captain, I had the opportunity we had to create a change proposal, and I had the opportunity to present to 7 fire chiefs. And I knew going into it that I made, because at the time, the battalion chief was not even a possibility for me. In my mind, it wasn't. And so I knew that I may not ever get an opportunity to present before 7 fire chiefs. So I worked hard at it, and I obviously, you know, I made an impression on the group. And so it was there, actually, I was just sharing with Kim, it was at that program that an assistant chief, Chief Tobias from Loudoun County, when he shook my hand and said, "You're going to be a fire chief one day." And then quite honestly, that was the trajectory that changed my career in 2017. By him, someone that did not look like me, speaking into my life and saying that I would be a fire chief one day. 2017, and T is from my department, she knows that has been my breakout year from that moment. And so that's so true what you say. Have a mentor that does not look like you. We have to, you know, I know we want to connect and we feel like we connect because of race, gender, or whatever the case. Find a mentor that does not look like you. And thank you for saying the men, because there are some awesome men in my life that are definitely paving the way. So EDI, Executive Development Institute, LDI, of course FDIC, iWomen, the EFO program.
I think the other thing that's important to remember is that, you know, if what you aspire to do is to be a fire chief, we're running a corporation. You know, it's a business, and there's lots of wonderful tradition and things that we have that are very different than a CEO of a company. But I'm forcing people to get out to go to leaderships and business seminars and things like that, and engaging in outside of the fire service. Part of that cultural mindset that we're looking to change may not be so strongly rooted in other corporations, Fortune 500s, businesses like that. So we're looking at other things outside of fire and EMS. There's good reasons to go to all of those because we're relatable, but it's amazing the strong women and just the powerful leadership philosophies that you can learn from other things outside of fire and EMS. So sometimes it's harder to get people to understand that until they go, and then they realize, oh, leadership is leadership. It doesn't matter where you're at.
We got a question here in the back.
Hello, I'm Brianna from Cadet Class 21. So we're the youth. We just want to know, do you have any advice for us as we enter the life?
I do have advice for you. I'll keep it to like 1 or 2 points. I can talk your ear off. Good job for being here. Thank you. That's phenomenal. So you're already doing it, right? You're engaging. You're being with other people. You're learning about the fire service. My advice would be to be nice to each other. We really lose that element when you start getting competitive in promotions and which engine company you're going to and who's trying to fit in and who's not. The women to your right and to your left, they should be your best friends through your career. You should be there to help each other. And when you get out in the field and you've got other women and other new young cadets that you're looking to, be willing to help them up and not push them down. It really goes back to just the basics of life. And it's noticed. It's remarkable what I see when I'm in the fire station. That little bit of an attitude that's like, I'll get there without you. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to get there together. So I know it seems very, very simple, but keep that in mind. Look to your left, look to your right, bring those people with you, because if they're doing the same, then we all rise together.
I agree, of course. Another one would be yourself. Be yourself. Do not try to assimilate with what's going on in the station, the culture. Be yourself. Understand that you bring value. I had something about that table, and that's why I teared up, because it's always been something about being at that table. And so now that I'm there, once you get there, you have to understand that you bring value. So don't just sit at the table and just sit there. Understand that you're there for a reason and for a purpose. And so once you understand who you are and the value that you have and the value that you bring, we as women, we bring a different dynamic. And I say that, I know I bring a different dynamic to that table every single time that I'm sitting there, and I share that with T all the time. So be yourself. Do not let anyone define who you are. Do not be defined by their by what they think you can do. And so I used to say, whatever they tell me I can't do, I'm going to prove to them I'm wrong. And I told y'all 2017 was a breakout year. 2017 was also the year that my first lady said, why do you keep saying I'm going to prove them wrong? Why don't you work on proving yourself right? And so in 2017, I changed my mindset. And I just stopped saying, I no longer say I'm doing what I do to prove them wrong. I'm doing everything that I do at this point to prove myself right. To prove myself that I deserve to be here, that I deserve to be here in this moment, that I deserve to be proud of this moment, that I don't have to no longer give a disclaimer, or I used to say when I teach that I just want to put out a disclaimer. I want you to know that I'm confident and not arrogant. And I used to think I had to say that before I taught. But why? Why? I should be proud of this moment. And now where I am, I understand that a lot of people are watching me. That's another one. Always know that people are watching you, no matter what, whether you're doing good or whether you're doing bad. Now, I also used to say I would never want my children to enter the fire department, right? Right, I did. And so I cannot tell you how proud I am. And it was because they watched me, and I never thought they would, because I fought. I did. I had a very hard battle. And if any of you know my story, I had a very hard battle. And so I would never have thought that my own children would follow in my footsteps. But I'm proud to say that my baby girl, no longer a baby, is a 4-year DC police officer, public safety. And my son back there, Elijah, is on the DC Fire Department when needed. And that's all to say, that's because they watch me. They watch me in the struggle. They watch me when I cry. They know all the things that I went through. So always understand that people are always watching you. And there's no such thing as off the job. Is I can do what I want to do off the job. It's no such thing. You're now in this profession, so you have to be professional at all times, on and off the job. You've watched the news. What do they say when somebody does something? DC firefighter, Arlington County firefighter, such and such fire chief. They always put that title before. It always goes before. Your profession goes before. So understand that professionalism is on and off the job. Being who you are is on and off the job.
Thank you. We have one more, we have another question here in the back. I'm sorry. Did you have more to comment? I'm sorry.
I mean, I could go on forever.
We have another question.
You should ask the question.
First of all, thank you very, very much. I'm empowered to hear you all. Congratulations on you both. A lot of us women have been fighting to get better. I'm pretty lucky to be in this department because we do work a lot with each other. And for the chief, where do you want to go from now? And as a battalion chief, what are your roles?
Good question.
Was that your question? Let the cat out of the bag.
Yes, I know, right?
I mean, I don't want to stand up here and say I want my boss's job, because that probably doesn't go very well. Part of the reason I wanted to come back from Maryland is one, that's where my husband and I met, and that's our home environment. But I have political aspirations. One of the things I learned from the fire marshal's office is you can only make so much change, and you can only enforce so much, and you can only do so much, and then you realize that's my scope of change. So I have political aspirations. The governor's mansion is right down the road from me, from where I live. And there's just things that you continually see. I want to do more. And I love that I kind of still have that burning in my belly. 13 years on the job, 13 years in the fire service. I was ecstatic to get the opportunity to be a 40-year-old female being a fire chief and not feeling like it's the last thing I'm going to do in my career and then I'm going to peter out. So having that advantage very early and working hard to be prepared to do that. Political aspirations, there's a lot of work I want to do in my department too, but I think the ability to be able to do more, to support more people is really like kind of that internal fire for me. So what's next? Let the cat out of bed. Some people probably already know. So I do have aspirations to become a fire chief. So my next step is deputy chief, or if I take the route like Chief Wolford, I don't have to be deputy chief. I can go on and put my resume out. But I do want to become a fire chief. I have 25 years. I thought I was getting ready to retire, but it's so much work to be done. It really is. I see that people are watching me, and I know that they're inspired. I know that it was a long time before I saw someone to even believe that it was a possibility. So I know the importance of this role, so I have to go further. So fire chief is my, yes.
There might be a vacancy here,
There is one last thing, and I don't know if we have more questions, but I don't want people to forget. Can you feel the energy in this room? Think of this energy when you're slaving away writing a paper. When it's Saturday afternoon, 4th of July, and all my friends are out having a great 4th of July, and I am typing an EFO paper for 8 hours straight. Remember these moments. This is what gets you through. We talk about what can I do? Your education is incredibly, incredibly important, and you will have to devote your personal time and your family's personal time. You have to remember why you're doing it. It is uncomparable the amount of time that you have to leave your butt in the chair to type, to study, to research. Remember what this feels like and that sense of pride when you get there, because these are the moments when I sit in the chair and I go, okay, you can do this. You have your own little self-talk. Trisha, you can do it. Don't get up from your chair. You don't need anything else to eat, just sit there, you know? But these are the moments that encourage me, and I go, okay, remember that room of incredible, powerful women? I can do this. I can do this. So don't forget these moments and how they will offset the grit and the force it will take to get to where you want. I think you have something.
I have one question.
Hello, my name is Stephanie from Cadet Class 21, and my question is, what were some of the struggles that you guys went through, and how did you guys overcome the situation?
I'm going to answer mine in a more general, because I think we all have our own independent struggles. One of the things that as you grow and you have families and you have friends in life is really that work-life balance. And you say it very general, and it's a very general term, but taking time out of your day to do one thing for yourself. One of my mentors told me, if it's not on your calendar, it's not important to you. And I thought, well, that seems really informal and it just seems kind of tacky, right? And then I realized, no, that's true. My 1 hour workout every morning is on the calendar. Those things were struggles for me in order to just kind of get my life regimented so I could focus. And struggles come in all different ways, and we could probably talk about particular situations of, true struggles, right? But for me, sometimes it's like I just want to look at myself and I want to think, okay, what are the things that I personally struggled with that I was capable of changing in my moment? Those were some of the things that I was capable of changing. That's definitely a shorter answer, but we don't have till like 5 o'clock. I probably need to scoop all you guys up.
Okay, so I'll be really quick. And this is one I honestly struggled with for a while, sharing my story. And I'm not going to share it here in length, but I will say that I had struggles when it came time for a promotion. And so my career was pretty easy until I said I wanted to do something other than ride on the back step of a fire truck. And I'm just being honest. One of my core values is transparency, so I don't know any other way but to be transparent. And so when I made that announcement, similar to when I just said I want to be fire chief, I had a struggle. I actually had to file a lawsuit and fight a lengthy, extensive battle. It took 3 years, exhausted my finances, and I lost. But the beauty of this story is, and I say this, I lost, but I won. Because what I won, and had I not gone through that struggle, I would not honestly be standing here before you today. Because I won so much more. I won my dignity, I won respect. I understood why people do not fight. I understand why they give up, because it's the Treasury office against your bank account. And so I thank God for my husband, who was there and has always been by my side and allowed me to continue to take out loans and fight. But I won so much more, honestly did. So I say I lost, but I won. And it was a long time. When we did the book anthology, I only wrote 1 chapter in that book, No More Chains. And I told my story, and she called me back and she said, we were doing a documentary, you played it too safe. And it was because I was scared, because I was sitting on a promotional list and I was scared if I told the truth that I wouldn't get promoted. But I knew that people were watching me. My social media had begun to, feel, and so I said, I have to tell the truth. I can no longer stand behind what has happened. I have to share that because others are watching, others are still going through struggles, and they wouldn't understand what it takes, and they wouldn't understand how I got here, right? So we all have different struggles. That just happened to be one of mine. So prayer, a lot of prayer, a lot of prayer, a lot of prayer, a lot of affirmations, a lot of support systems got me through, and just continuing to know that you were coming, honestly. I knew you were coming. I didn't know that my daughter was coming behind me. I didn't know that my son was coming behind me. I knew you were coming, even though I didn't know your name. I knew that it was a reason why I had to keep fighting, because there was going to be some young lady that was coming behind me that wanted to be where I was. And so that's what kept me going every day. And that's what's going to have to keep you going. There's still young ladies. Look at this room. This is a beautiful sight to see so many women, and I'm seeing so many women in the fire service now that we didn't have this. I was just sharing with Chief Wolford, 2018, we had a breakout year for women in the fire service. And I was like, oh, I don't think the men noticed what's going on. Just in the DMV, right here, Howard County, female fire chief. Howard County, female police chief. Tiffanye Green, who you may not know, Chief Deputy of Prince George's County. Prince George's County. So right here in the DMV, we have so much strength. Bench strength is what they like to call it. We have it right here. So it's up to us, ladies. It's up to us to bring these young ladies forward. It's up to us to have that networking social event. And it's up to us to stay united. Because that book that I just read, and I love it, it's my favorite now, it's called She Wins, You Win. Mean I'm winning, that means you're gonna win. When she became fire chief, it raised the stakes for me. If she fails in this position, it also raised the stakes of me failing. So I need her to do what she's gonna do, so I can do what I'm gonna do, so you all can do what you're gonna do, and those young sisters back there can do what they need to do.
Hello, I'm firefighter Chantel Bennett. What are some of you all's short and long-term goals in the positions that you all are in now?
So, do you know you're straight off the top, right? Put her on the spot. Short-term goal, I'm here, check. I got it. You know, that's the other thing about when you have a list, you gotta make yourself feel good and check something off the list. So that was my 4-year plan, and I got it in 3. So I'm checking that off the list. Now, you know, I talk about staying. We talk about getting each other there. How do we maintain? How do we continue to be great and just move ourselves through our profession? The long-term goals are getting that exposure to my female firefighters who have never had a female chief, and making sure that they understand that it's more than just the Anne Arundel County Fire Department. You almost answered the question before the question of, you know, when I win, everybody else wins. And I have this amazing staff that already sees that. They already know, you know, what they've said to me in my first week, we're not gonna let you fail. That's an amazing feeling to come into. If you fail, we all fail. And it has nothing to do with color and gender. So for the long-term goal, it's really to continue to pave that road. I need to widen the road, is what I'm feeling. It's a little narrow for me right now. And I think it's narrow for what we're trying to do and to bring up the next generations. So I'm forcing everybody to continue the long push. Let's open it up. Let's make it just a little bit wider, right? Right now the sidewalk, 2 of us can walk side by side. I need like 6, right? Yeah, I need that wide path. So I know that's very general because it's hard to answer some of these questions very focused, but just really staying with when those long-term goals are about people. That is my focus. People are our best asset. How do we foster that? How do we continue to help them grow? Professional development, those things like that. I did a 100-day plan. I'm in like almost on day 50. I'm 8 weeks into the new job, and almost every day I'm at a fire station. I am with one of my bureaus. I did the math on it. It's like 197 visits. So it's a lot. And I'm averaging like 2 or 3 hours, which each company or each group of people. And there's a lot that needs to be done administratively, but I refuse to sacrifice the people. So that's a lot of what that long-term is to make sure I can continue with people.
So short-term is to just build up other leaders, to set the table for someone else. Tia is here, and she just came out on the top of the promotional exam. And we're gonna make And so my short-term goal is to set that table for her, to make room for her at that table. That's short-term, and to build other, I say, courageous leaders all over the country. That's what I'm on a speaking circuit now, to just build up courageous leaders, helping others to understand that transition from money to boss is one of the classes that I teach. And so that's short-term. Long-term, which is kind of short-term and long-term, because I'm sitting here listening to Chief Wolford. I need to make my long-term my short-term. But in all honesty, we were talking this morning. So being in operations, I'll just touch on that because we just talked about that. When I got the position, you know, that feel that I had to be in operations to prove. We talked about this. Feeling like I had to be in operations to prove that I could do it, right? We just heard Chief Wolford came up, skipped the ranks of captain and battalion chief, right? And now she's a fire chief. And just understanding that I have 25 years on them. So what else do I need to prove? I mean, honestly, what else do I have to prove? So my long-term goal is now my short-term goal, because in all honesty, to be a fire chief, I'm not learning that in operations. I'm not learning how to build a budget in operations. Let's just be honest. So, like, like Chief Queen said, they don't want to hear about the 2.5 in that budget meeting. I mean, but it's true though. It's true. I told you I don't know any other way to be but transparent. And so my long-term goal has become short-term. I need to learn other aspects, the administrative side of things, to go on to the next role.
So we're gonna have one last question for you, again. I'm sorry. I'll come back. I apologize. I didn't see your hand. You had another question? Oh, I'll be right there for you. Go ahead.
We've heard a lot about making well-rounded individuals, ladies. And in doing that, I just want to make sure I ask this question right. In doing that, being well-rounded means that you have a healthy environment both at work and at home. So what advice can you give to deal with those situations that occur at home? Just one key point or one, two.
So I think for me, my number one thing kind of goes back to my philosophy of my career. I control me. And I know that's really easy to say if I don't have a difficult home situation, or I'm not struggling to raise 5 kids and take care of grandbabies and support a brother and sister who are in college and work 3 jobs, or we've all had those phases in life where there's more people living in your home than you're related to, and you're going to 2 other jobs, and life is just chaos sometimes. For me, I've always done really well with, and again, some of these things sound so elementary when I say them out loud. I make a list so I can visually see it. I have to know what I'm working towards. I have to be motivated by that. And if the home life is not what I want it to be, I've never been afraid to reach out to somebody and say, I need help. I can't do it by myself. None of us got here by ourselves. To talk about it. We talk about find those people you relate to and say, hey, how are you getting through this? Like, be okay with who you are. It's okay if you're a hot mess for a year or 2, right? You're gonna get through it. That's what we do, That's what makes our character who we are, and it pushes us through. So I think for me, I've always asked for help. I've never been shy. We talk about that level of transparency, and that's maybe one of the things that my command staff is getting used to, that they haven't been used to, is I try to just be very normal. Talk about what your problems are. What do you need help with? You need me to go to the grocery store for you? Great, I'll go to the grocery store. If that takes stress off of your day. So those are little things for me. Talk about it, ask for help, know your limits. Life and work, they run very parallel in this industry. A lot of the things that you use in work, try using in life. And probably the best thing is that always anticipate that the day you're having is not somebody else's day. Your best day may not be theirs. Have some compassion. Take a moment to go, ooh, okay, let me just step back from myself real quick. Let me think about it. What can I do to make it better instead of worse? I tend to have lots of self-conversation. So, there's the element of what part am I responsible for? Let me look at myself before I look at others, whether that's in a blame capacity or how to get past it. What can I do to make it better first? That's a good one. Can I pass it to my husband or my children? That's a good one. So I would say balance. Balance is the biggest one for me, and I think I'm getting better. My children and husband may
say differently.
Look at the look on his face.
But honestly, balance. And so here I am now in the limelight, in the forefront, and getting booked almost every day. I'm booked all the way through August, which is a blessing, but it's also, it's a lot of traveling, right? And so I'm learning to balance. I'm learning to set the calendar and create a calendar. I'm still old school, so I have to see it in black and white, and then also I'm trying to do the tech thing and put it in the phone. With that, I'm trying to share more of my calendar with my husband. And so, and then it helps when you have people that are in the fire service that are married also, because it's a very unique situation, especially when you're promoted and your husband is not, or whatever the case may be. It's a unique situation, and so it helps to have other that's in that same situation to just draw on and ask, is this what I'm feeling? Is this normal? Right? So it's good to have a mentor. It's good to have just a support system. But I would say balance. So learning to balance, so incorporating, now that I'm traveling so much, incorporating my family with my travel and on my trips is the biggest thing, balance. Just learning to balance. You can't say yes to everything. I'm learning it out, but I know it's a little slow. But you can't accept every opportunity that comes. Yeah, so balance.
My name is Firefighter Stephanie Lewis, and I wanted to say that I really enjoyed what y'all spoke about today. It really empowered me personally. I never really had a personal goal in myself to really of moving up the ranks, but seeing you guys do it is inspiring me, and to watch Chief Anune and also Chief Clemencia. I'm proud of y'all. I'm thankful for y'all, and now I have a daughter that's on the job that can look up to you guys and see what she can be as being a firefighter. And I wanted to know the name of the book that you, not the She Will, I Will, but the first book you said, autobiography that you wrote, Breaking the Ceiling or something. I wanted to know where could I buy a book like that from?
Okay, so that's it's a book anthology, so I just have one chapter in the book, again, because I was scared. No, I am. Oh, I have a good book. I have my own, that's when I retire right now. So, yeah, maybe, yeah, she said why, so when I retire. But that one is, it'll be available on my website, but it's called No More Chains. And it's just, I just have one chapter that tells a snippet of my story of the struggle. And it's titled, I'm Anointed for This. Yeah, that was my title. It's going to be, it's in the making right now. It actually is.
So I think are we close to wrapping up?
Yeah, I have one more question.
Okay, then go for it.
Is that, okay. So the last question is coming from me. So it is a comment and a question. So the comment is that I've had an opportunity to supervise both Chief Anune and Chief Clemencia. Chief Clemencia and I, we talk quite often. So over the years, as we have conversations and discussions about the industry and the job, the conversation kind of twisted a little bit, where now I'm taking a position where she's also providing insight. But I can go back to those early years as I was a lieutenant, she was a sergeant, and Queen was a sergeant here, and they would have to come in and get some direction, right? And part of that is, you know, your first instinct as a man, right, is to jump in. He did what? Right? But I had to tell that back, right? And give them information and give them some direction. So my question is, right, can you give some insight on leading men?
Up in the game, I like it. All right, that's actually a great question. Look at him swaggering away.
You know you're in my house, right?
I'm looking at your chief right now. And then I'm looking at my jacket and my 5 stripes.
like that. And that's how you lead men. That's the long and short of it. I really could just drop the mic and leave it right there. Yeah, but I'll give some practical advice. I'm sorry. No. So you got me back from starting earlier. I see how this works.
We do have real advice.
Yes, so real advice. That was it. And I share this now when I teach. And I learned it from Joel Osteen. And I love this because it's so true and it was so illuminating when I learned it. And in the class, I normally start at the beginning and I walk to the back for the dramatics. I won't because of the camera. I'll walk this way. So what I learned is about likes. And we're all social media. We like to post something and get likes, right? So what I learned, you're going to have people in your life, 25%, that are going to be your ride or dies. Those are my Kalilas, my Tias, my daughter, who I call my best friend every time she calls me. Elijah back there. So there are going to people, 25% are going to like you no matter what you do, right? Then I walk through the class. There's another 25% who will like you, but can be convinced not to like you. So Queen may say, girl, she wrote me up last week. So now you don't like me. All because of what she said. Then I walk further and I said there's another 25% who will not like you, but can be convinced to like you. So the males who may not have liked me before, and it's like, no, she's cool. All you have to do is follow her expectations she set, do your job, and you're good, right? But then there's that 25%, and I normally walk all the way to the end of the class. And I said, I now understand that no matter what I do, it may not be because of the color of my skin, it may not be because of my gender. No matter what I do, there's 25% who will not like me no matter what. And you have to be okay with that. And so as I shared with the class in Lynchburg Fire Department yesterday when I taught, I now have people that I put 25% on their forehead. And I say, okay, you're just 25% that are not going to like me. And guess what? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Everybody's not going to like you. And then one of my slides, it says, I can't force you to have good taste. Everybody's not going to like you. And once you understand that everybody is not going to be for you, everybody's not going to be for Tiffanye S. Wesley. Once you understand that, it's so illuminating. You can go about your day without a care. And in 25 years, the way I lead men, I'm very transparent. I learned the transparency gets me the respect. I start every day with 100. I don't carry on from yesterday to today. So even if you didn't follow what I asked you to do yesterday, today is a new day, right? So I start a new day. I stand confidently, not arrogantly, but confidently. I know my job. That's the number one thing I teach. You have to know your job. Have to know your job. And I say for women, we have to know our job, the job above, the job below, the job beside. We have to know the police officer's job, the county manager's job. You have to know your job. It is what it is. You have to know your job. And so once you know your job, you can stand before men and you can lead them because they know you know your job. And so that's the way I lead. I make sure I go out and I set expectations, and then I expect them to follow the expectations, and I hold people accountable. So when you don't, you can't come back and say you didn't know, because I've written expectations. So it's not oh, she said, or I thought she said. No, it's written. You signed it. And so that's how I lead men, and so that's how I garner their respect. And the other thing is, you cannot be afraid to fail, what you said earlier. You cannot be afraid to fail. Everyone fails. Everyone fails, ladies. Everyone fails. And it's okay to fail. As long as you learn the lesson, it's okay to fail. Be transparent, because that takes the wind out their sail. If I run a call and I do something that they didn't think was the best, I say it up front. My first fire, my first week, I say, guess what? I took command, but I didn't name it. So now what you gonna say? You can talk about me, but I've already exposed what I didn't do correctly. And so I go out and I do a lot of training, and so that's how I found that it gathers the respect. Not being afraid to fail, not caring about everyone liking you, and just going about knowing your job, and always had that happy smile at the end. Even when you discipline, you had that happy smile. You understand what I'm saying? We good, we good.
Do you mind if I just say one thing to the group before? What I want to say is thank you. Being a young firefighter coming in 2006, being incredibly blessed to be in this position right now. There are women in this room who have paved the path for me, and I always like to end with being able to talk about that. All of the unspoken things that you've done, all the things that you did that you never knew you did for somebody else. You're quietly mentoring just while people are watching you. So for me, to you, thank you, because what you have done has allowed me to be here so that we can all continue to move forward. I look at Tiffanye, 25 years. I've got 13 years in the fire service, 25. The work that you have done has paved the path for me. And there's so many of you out here that I'm just getting ready to meet to be able to say thank you. So I never want to let that go. So thank you. Thank you. I love what I do.
No, please use the mic. Please use the mic.
Firefighter Johnson, and I'm anticipating being promoted soon. So what if, like, earlier you guys talked about it's okay to be a hot mess. So what advice can you give someone that is or was a hot mess in the eyes of a lot of people, and you're trying to get them to understand that you're not the same person that you were?
That is, I think this is where they say action speaks louder than word. You're prepared. When you physically and mentally come into a room, you're a game changer. They go, oh, that's not what we saw. When I came back, I was gone for 3 years. I left as the lieutenant in the field, running around in my work boots, digging and being the gritty out in the field. And then I come back in this, and I said, I don't expect you to be who you were 3 years ago. I'm certainly not who I was 3 years ago. But I made sure to do the work, to back it up, and to be very clear about my intentions of how I present myself. I always take that on me. That's my job, to let somebody know that I'm different than what I was. Or to have the conversation when I've got one or two that are like, that's skeptical, like, you say you've changed, but you haven't. Say, hey, can we sit down and talk? Let me tell you what I've been doing to make myself better. Maybe they don't even know that you acknowledge that what you were then was not the best version of you. Put it out there. Hey, I had a rough couple of years. This is what I've been doing to work towards being this person. This is who I am. Don't be afraid to just say, I learned a lot through that, but this is where I am now.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. So people will follow your footsteps easier than people will follow your footsteps easier than they will your advice. So just as Chief Wolford said, do the work. Let them see you. And it's okay, as we talked about, it's okay. Everyone didn't start, where you start is not where you end, right? So it doesn't matter how you finish. So it doesn't matter how you started, it's how you are progressing. Consistency, you have to be consistent. Do the work. I say it starts at the top, lead by example, right? And then in your mind, one of my sayings that I say every time I speak, I said I was going to trademark it. What you permit, you promote. And what you promote becomes your standard. So when you're doing things and you're operating a certain way, now it becomes your standard. So what used to be your standard doesn't have to be your standard anymore. Now you make it a standard of accountability. Now you make it a standard of integrity. Now you make it a standard of respecting for yourself and for others. Now you have a standard of just excellence in everything that you do. Showing up ready, showing up on time. I love when she said, we are so much alike. I'm like, I can't wait for her to sit down. But the business suit thing, and Tia and Kalila and everyone else who knows, I show up every conference, business suits. Front of the room. It doesn't matter. I go straight to the front because you know what that says? That speaks power to the room, right? Whereas because I remember there was a time I would sit in the back and be intimidated. Now I go straight to the front every single class. And that's saying, I'm walking a different way. And I said to somebody, if you do not change, you know how they used to say now they're drinking the Kool-Aid? I'm supposed to. If you don't change, that's a problem. You're supposed to change. In evolution, you're supposed to evolve. As a leader, you're supposed to change. So I'm expecting you to change, right? And so I would say just consistency. Let them see you that you change. You don't have to keep beating them over the head and tell them, just let them see it. And then
So yeah, Brianna. So I wanted to speak directly to you, Brianna. Up until like 3-4 months ago, I was her captain. I started with her 2.5 years ago, and I rode her, and I told her I was going to ride. You didn't. And she asked me the same question, and I said, you have to walk the walk. You have to be consistent. And those who are going to buy in, you bring them close to you. Those who are not, let them be. Don't worry about that. But your motivation has to be within you. You have to want to change, and that's for all of us, because you own your self-worth. You know it's something you need to do, you want to do, and you want to progress. Surround yourself with people of like mind. And I'm here to attest that this young lady has grown. She has grown. Is she where she wants to be? No, I'm not either. But I'm getting there. You have grown. Own your self-worth, honey. Accept it and move on. And don't be concerned about those who haven't bought in or believe in you. Take on the ones who, like me, who do believe in you. Who I've seen your hard work. I've had people come into the firehouse and be like, you're her officer? What a difference it has made. And I'm not accepting the credit myself. You did that work, Brianna. So for all of us to get to where we want to be, you have to put in the work. And something that one of the cadets asked about, I think she said, what were the challenges? Most of my challenge was within myself, and I'm sure you all can relate to this. Feeling inadequate, okay? Not owning my self-worth and being patient with self. I'm the type of person that when I get to a level, I want to be the great at it right then and there. I was not born with patience, y'all, just in case some of you all don't know. But I'm still cultivating and learning that patience. But it had to start within me. I had to be patient with myself, and within doing so, I have to allow myself to grow and make mistakes in that process and not be afraid of failure and to cling on to those who support me from the heart. That's it. I want to say, Chief Carter is one of my biggest supporters and my mentor. And boy, have we had some fights along the way. But this is my man. And he knows I love him, and I call him my uncle every time I call him. And boy, we get on each other's nerves, but it's love, isn't it?
We're going to close the ceremony out with comments from Chief of Staff Amy Morrow. But before, so I want to make a comment to you ladies. And this is something that I've learned over the years. Most of the people that you see here stand on a foundation where leadership is inherently provided to them. For me, it was in my home life, my mother and my oldest sister. My mother gave marching orders and she pushed it straight down to my oldest sister, and I had a middle sister, and I was the youngest. My sister Monica, when she came home, we were lock and key kids. She did dinner, she sat down and made sure I did my homework. Before I left out to go play, it had to be done, and I came back in, bathed, and I got ready for school the next day. all before my parents would come home. Ladies, you inherently are leaders, and you're doing it right now. And the influence that you are getting, that you give, understand that comes from a position of leadership. It is in you. Don't disassociate your inherent ability and your true talent with work. Apply it here. Because one thing with Queenie and Keisha, I said, oh, they at home and they in charge. So they already know how to do it. They just have to be comfortable with applying it here. That's all I got to say.
Well, I don't know what I can possibly add to such an inspiring afternoon. Oops, probably not dropping But first, I just want to say thanks again to our speakers. Really amazing, inspiring. Thank you. And I'm glad you offered, because I was going to ask for you to stay involved in our family here. You're part of the family. Please stay connected with us as we move these ladies along and move our department along. This is a networking event at heart, and I feel like it's been one of the better networking events I've ever participated in. So mission accomplished. So this May and June will be 4 years since Chief Dean and I joined the department. So it's hard to believe that time flies. Feeling a little sentimental with 4 years coming up. And so just wanted to share some memories. 3 years ago, we had our first Empowering Women to Lead networking event. And we had another regional chief come from Fairfax. But I think Lieutenant Clemencia at the time, or were you a captain? You were both captains. Captain Clemencia and Captain Anune spoke at that event.
Yes.
And they said some things that I think I've carried with me during my time in the department. Captain Clemencia talked about needing mental toughness to be in the job and to grow, and I think we heard a lot about that today. And Captain Anune said that her goal was to become a deputy fire chief, and I remember I asked her, why would you stop there? And I just hearing what these chiefs said today, I've seen that in our female leaders in the agency and also just department-wide with some of the work that we've been doing. So it's very reaffirming to hear that. And people who have been in meetings with me, they know that I like to repeat action steps at the end of the meeting. So I thought if I could contribute anything, it would be to reemphasize some of the themes we heard today so that we can take those with us. So family, encourage, inspire, mentor, limitless possibilities. Transformation comes out of the darkness. I think we've all seen that. Don't be afraid to do things differently. Take a different path than what you think is expected. Be yourself. Be true to yourself. Find your peace and make decisions from there. Make decisions from a place of strength, even when you're struggling. And I wanted to end by noting that we're kind of in conference season. We've had a lot of presence at conferences in the region and in the country in recent months. We had a big presence at the GEMS conference in February, which was a really great experience. I was in Austin last week at a medical directors summit. And I keep hearing my grandmother's voice, something she used to say. She would say, "You've got a lot on the ball." And the way I'm feeling right now is that this department's got a lot on the ball. I think that we're doing great things, and you've come a long way, and we're kind of just hitting our stride with events like this and with our growing leaders. And so in many ways, we're just getting started, and I'm excited about the future, and I hope that you are too. So thank you.